Man, look at me sneaking in another stream on you guys in a single day. Man, that's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, literally the moment that I ended the previous stream earlier today, I got a text from Joe Howard, the guy who usually comes here and records on Monday nights, that he wasn't going to be able to make it today. So we just got a little bit of free time to work on this some more. All right, let's take a look right back where we were at. Hey, this time Manjin's first. Yeah. So we are going to be jumping this thing right back in here, right where we were. Oh, that's good. I wonder if Cody's going to be back in here. I don't know if he will or not. That'd be super cool if he is. Yeah, it's not often we get a chance to stream twice in a day, but that's what we're doing. So maybe we can get this thing close to done. I'm not going to say done, but I'm hoping we'll get somewhere close. Okay, so as we mentioned earlier today in the last stream, the very first thing that we need to work on here is our mid-range bandpass, which is knocking out the low lows and the high highs and giving us only our mid-range so that we can check this in the one range that is in every single speaker, even the crappy old $5 thing you could probably go buy at Walmart right now. You want your mix to translate across multiple systems, you need to be checking your mid-range. Make sure everything is in balance in your mid-range. You're kind of appealing to the lowest common denominator, if you will, in that case. If you know it sounds good even on the crappiest thing, it should sound good even on the real good stuff, right? So we're going to listen to the song pretty much from start to finish here with that mid-range bandpass on. Depending on what you're listening to this on, it will kind of sound like a speaker is broken. It's on purpose. It's that mid-range bandpass. If you're just watching this on your cell phone, honestly, it's probably not going to sound a whole lot different, which is pretty hilarious. But we are looking for things here that are out of balance because everything felt pretty good in balance in the full quality mix. So if something is not in balance here, it means we need to make an EQ move to try and get everything to slot together better, more naturally, so that no matter whether we're in mid-range bandpass mode or full quality mode, everything is pretty well in balance. Let's just go ahead and start it right up. Uh-oh. I've hit a button and nothing happened. Okay. We will... Wasn't I just talking in the last stream about how buggy these things are? That's better. So having a little bit of trouble hearing that solo violin and also the piano there. Been a little while since we've heard the intro in full quality though, so it might be something we want to check. had a system overload. Very nice. Tell you what, I think we've done a good job with the other two songs already because we didn't hardly have to do anything to that. It just pretty naturally sounded good in the mid-range. That's awesome. Okay, I do want to hear those vocal things again because we did cut a little bit at 300, which is pretty typical for me as far as muddiness in the vocal goes. Also, Majennica says, my 2 lines broke your computer. That's right. See, you complained about those 2 lines, but look at the power they have. Halting electronics in their tracks. Yep, I think we got that right on. Good. Well, sometimes that step takes a while. We just about could have done that, actually, in that last 10 minutes of the last stream. It's just almost never that easy. That's good. That means we've been doing good work in the other 2 songs. Okay, so back to full quality now, taking the mid-range bandpass off. That is something we need to remember to turn back on every once in a while just to check certain parts and make sure that everything is still sitting together, especially if we make any pretty severe volume or EQ changes anywhere. We want to check that mid-range bandpass again to make sure that everything's sitting. But at least in these speakers, I was able to pretty easily hear the bass drum, the snare drum, all of the toms. The cymbals are a little quiet just because most of the cymbals are in the high highs, so that's to be expected, but I still heard them. I could hear the bass. I did adjust the bass. That was the EQ that I had up for the longest there near the beginning, was giving the bass a little bit of boost around 260 hertz. I could hear it, but just I wanted to hear it a little bit better. We could hear the guitars really well. The piano and the strings both came through in the louder sections. Now the intro was a little off balance, which I pointed out, but I think we want to check the full quality mix. So like I said, it's been a little while since we listened to that part of this song. We've been focused on like the drums and the guitars leading up to this. So let's just kind of check out how this beginning of this song is sounding at the moment in full quality. So as I suspected, both that solo violin and the piano that come in right there are kind of hard to hear even in the full quality mix. So that wasn't a mid-range bandpass thing. That's just the fault of me not paying close enough attention to the beginning of the song. Okay, so let me see something here. So that's solo violin 1 and also high piano 1, high piano 4 a little bit, and low piano 2 a little bit. So yeah, these might be volume automation things that we need to pay attention to, because I think these things are in balance later in the song. So this is going to be something that we just need to pay attention to in volume automation. We do know that the two things slot together well, so we shouldn't have any problem turning them up to where they need to be. Okay, volume automation. That is our next step. The third big step of mixing any one of these songs is making the volumes of certain tracks jump up and down by themselves in the middle of the song to get parts that should be louder or quieter in balance, right? We go track by track and determine which ones need them and which ones don't. I think, again, that our bass drum and snare drum are okay as is. Now, I do think that we may want to pull the toms back just a little bit in that instrumental. I mentioned this in the last one. Oh, yes, Seeker. Hello. Good to see you. That's another new name. Why so few people here? Guess your band is not well known. You are correct, sir. Yes, we are working on the... I guess I shouldn't say sir. I don't know. But yes, you are indeed correct. This is our second full-length album we are working on here. And a fairly new series mixing this album. So not a whole lot of people here, but glad to see you. By all means, anytime you have anything you want to say or any questions you want to ask, throw it in the chat there. I like interacting with people, especially new people. Thanks for checking it out. Okay, so the toms in that instrumental section here, I think we do want to relax a little bit, meaning turn them down a hair. And not by much. We definitely don't want them to go like all the way into the background. But a little bit. Let's go like 1.5 decibels and just kind of see where that puts us. That should put this one at 17. We'll listen to this middle section here. Yeah, it might be a little too much. Seeker is familiar with our work. Awesome. Hey, really great to hear. Seeker says Paramnesia was not bad. Underrated album, maybe. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm biased, but I think so. Definitely think it was underrated. Yeah, I think we're good with that. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is go through the entire thing fill by fill. So we're really paying attention to the toms here and making sure that anytime Eli is playing a fill using those toms or anything, that you can actually hear each tom in there. Now, another thing I brought up in previous episodes here is that a lot of times I will pan the first floor tom to the left instead of the right anytime he hits floor tom 1 and 2 together. Now in this song, again, even though we do have a couple of spots where that's happening, we don't need to worry about panning them because the second floor tom is already in the center rather than panned off to the right where it would be based on drummer's perspective. We got a whole mess of fills right here when the drums first come in though, so let's check that out. Cody's here. Didn't beat Manjen. That's true. Well, to be fair, I didn't expect to be streaming again today. So, yeah, I was good with all that. Let's keep on moving. Yeah, I think I'm good with that. Awesome. that fill, and I mentioned this earlier, I definitely want to bring that fill up. I like that fill a lot. Yeah, let's bring the flam up right there too. Didn't have my phone on me while I was prepping for making dinner. It happens. Hear the second tom in that fill very well. Wasn't bad, but I think we could hear it better. Okay, all good with that. The end of that was just a hair quiet, but most of it was fine. Seeker. Yeah, Seeker says, sounds good. Will the album be focused on Christian themes lyrically or more philosophy stuff? A little bit of both, honestly. Now, this one is not a concept album like Paramnesia was. It did end up being a little bit themed, if you will. I'm not sure if you knew this, but our male lead vocalist, Jerry Grazioso, who is all over Paramnesia, he played the character of Thomas, passed away last year, unfortunately. So a lot of this album's themes are a lot about dealing with loss and kind of moving on from loss. So, of course, there is a lot of, the Christian belief within that, just kind of naturally. Having said that, we do try to be not too super overt with it. Obviously, we don't want to hide it or anything, but we do want to try and reach out to people that don't necessarily believe. And, obviously one of the quickest ways to turn them off is to be saying the word God every other word in your lyrics, you know what I mean? So we want to try and kind of bring them in and how do I put this right? This is such a sensitive subject, you know what I mean? Show them that you don't have to go crazy with that stuff to be Christian, you know what I mean? You don't have to be constantly talking about it all the time. There are plenty of amazing Christian bands that do the worship metal, that sort of stuff. And we can kind of bridge the gap a little bit, I feel like. But yes, a little bit of both, I would definitely say. Good with all that. So some of these toms are also giving us that cymbal bleed again a little bit, but not quite as bad as the groove snare was in that last episode. Like that rack tom 1 that's right up here, we get a little bit more cymbal than we do drum, but I think it's all right as is. Right, and then we got this section which we've relaxed a little bit. Nice. Dad says your bass guitar player obviously has no concept of music theory. Probably can't even read notation, I'm guessing. Yeah, right. If anybody in the band can read notation or has a concept of music theory, it's the bass player. Says the guy whom without I wouldn't know theory or how to read notation. Yeah. Right. Oh, yes. Seeker says, I agree. Christian undertone lyrics are better rather than the worship lyrics. I'm not religious Orthodox Christian, but I listen mostly to secular bands. Sorry for your loss. Thank you, man. Very much appreciated. And yeah. There's a lot of different lines of thought on that one, and I think we fall in a pretty good middle ground where we can appeal to both. We can appeal to both sides. You know what I mean? I really like that aspect of this band, actually, that we don't have to write worship lyrics necessarily to appeal to the Christian market, but we can write things with Christian undertones in it and appeal to everybody as well. Especially when it comes to something as deeply personal as dealing with loss. You know what I mean? That is something that everybody has to deal with. Okay. That gnat flying around in here, he's gonna meet an unfortunate end. Yeah, Cody. Yeah, totally. Not religious at all, but tend to listen to a lot of heavy Christian bands. Love emotion and good lyrics. Exactly right. That's all it takes. And that makes sense too. Now, for anybody that's in here watching that doesn't know, Cody and I grew up basically. I mean, we were best friends for most of our preteens and teenager, years. And at that time, we did attend a youth group, which is better left unsaid. But it makes sense that you got into a lot of those bands that just made solid, good music back then and still listen to them now. Absolutely. All good with that. Eli says the gnat said I'm right beside you. Yeah, and he is too. And right in front of me and landing on my face. I'm going to go with a little bit more of both of those toms. Awesome. Think we got that all good to go. Oh, you know what? There was actually one thing I wanted to review. Okay, so that whole snare section right there, I think, ought to be turned up just a hair. Now, we did turn down the parallel compression during that part to make the snare a little bit less punchy, and I do stand by that, but I do think it ought to be a little louder. Not as punchy, but a little louder. Yep. Okay. Okay. Put some more reverb on it. Oh, yeah. That is a good idea. Let's do that. I never liked most American Christian metalcore bands, not only because I don't like metalcore, but they had fake Christian sense as well. I think prog metal is the best for thoughtful Christianity. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, I've never been a big fan of metalcore either, personally. I've never been a big fan of screaming, if I'm being totally honest. Which is why all of the vocals here are melodic or singing, if you will. So few Christian prog metal bands exist. Yeah, very true. Very true. We are very proud to be one of them. That's always been what's caught my attention. Essentially, the ability to put whatever you want in your music, regardless of genre, being able to put weird time signatures in there or not. You know what I mean? This album is certainly a little bit less progressive than Paramnesia overall, I would say, too, but still prog for sure. We didn't go quite as crazy on the time signatures and key changes and stuff on this album, that is to say. But yeah, no, I gravitate towards that sort of stuff. I think it's pretty obvious that one of my biggest influences and a big influence for Sam, the keyboardist, is Dream Theater. You know what I mean? Extol is quite good. Yeah. They were famous even for secular fans. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, James, our other guitarist, talks about that a lot. Seeing Extol, blew his mind live. Cody says, our biggest song in our first band had screaming. Yeah, mostly because I always loved it, and now I play 80s synth music. Yeah. Yep, a lot of the early Axion stuff, for sure. Majennica says that, and I can't scream other than the horror movie Getting Murdered Shattered Glass scream. Yes, which has also been featured in more than one recording, that particular scream. Let's I put some more reverb on that section right there. Let's check that out. Got some more reverb on the snare there. Eli says, I would love to write an 8-minute song with nothing but screaming horror lyrics. Yeah. No, she means screaming in horror. Which would still be pretty funny if the only quote-unquote lyric in the song is A-A-H. And just every once in a while we stop and we get that horror scream and then we keep going. Perfect. Okay, yeah. Our auxiliary percussion in this, I think, is good as is. A couple of backward cymbals already balance the auxiliary floor toms that happen in that instrumental section we already took care of earlier. So let's move into our drums and bass. Okay, so first, I'm going to mute everything that is not the drums and the bass guitar. What are the influences you had for AfterWinter? What bands? Oh, man. So many kind of play into this. And I can't necessarily speak for everybody in the band, but a lot of them are here. So guys, speak up by all means. For me, the biggest influences for me have been the Beatles, Kiss, Def Leppard, Megadeth, and Dream Theater. I feel like I've left something important out there, but those are the big ones. I went through a huge Def Leppard phase when I was a teenager, which Cody started. And for a long time, that was all I'd listened to. Kiss has always been a huge influence for me. When it came into Megadeth, when it came into heavier stuff, Megadeth appealed to me a little bit more than Metallica, usually for the intricate guitar work. I like Metallica, too. I'm not one of those either-or guys. I like them both, but Megadeth always appealed to me a little bit more. But for AfterWinter specifically, I would say that for me, a lot of what comes through is Dream Theater and Def Leppard. We get those big, huge, 80s Def Leppard harmonies in a lot of our songs. But musically, it's a lot more like Dream Theater, maybe a little bit heavier, kind of on average, not literally every moment, but kind of on average. And that has a lot to do with James. James's influences are, well, he's got a lot of varied influences too, but he got super into bands like Slayer and to an extent Cannibal Corpse and Fear Factory and that sort of stuff. So James brings the really fast picking heavy stuff in, is usually him, that sort of stuff. All great bands. Dream Theater was 100% predictable. Symphony X maybe too, but they were more power like. Yeah. Yeah. I liked that Dream Theater didn't go too weird. That was my thing, because I like Haken. Sam got me into Haken. And I like those guys a lot, especially the Affinity album for me is top tier, most of that. But they do tend to go a little bit outside my weirdness comfortability, if that makes sense. And I like that Dream Theater kind of stays more within quote-unquote normal, but not too much, you know what I mean? But there's a ton. I mean, if you look at the list of influences for everybody in the band, it's miles long, and every bit of that kind of contributes to what this is. And I love that about this. Yes, okay. So here, we are really looking at the volume of the bass guitar specifically. Now, normally, we want to talk about the context of everything. When you're mixing, you want to mix in context. It doesn't matter at all if something sounds good by itself. It needs to sound good in the context of the mix. So generally, you want to avoid mixing things in solo. But one of the reasons that we mix the bass and the drums just with the two of those things is so that we can really clearly hear the bass guitar to make absolute sure if there's a cool little thing that's maybe gotten covered by everything else, we catch it and we can bring it out. Now, when we bring it out, we want to make sure we check it in the context of everything. But this gives us a good opportunity to really hear what Dad is doing on the bass. Oh, yeah, Seeker says, thanks for your answers. No, thank you for the question. Again, there's a reason we're doing this live, and it's mostly so that we can have a little bit more interaction with people like this, because we don't play live, so this is our kind of our only chance to interact. So, no, genuinely, thank you. I'm glad you're here. All right, let's take a listen here. All good so far? Yeah, the interaction on this particular episode so far has been amazing. Thank you all. What was that? Did you guys hear that? It sounded like somebody said, hey. Right there. Is it like a little slide up on the bass strings, maybe? It almost sounds like a person saying something. Yeah, I think it's that little slide right there. It sounds a little different when the drums are in there. Unless there's something on the drum track, I guess we ought to listen. I didn't hear anything there. Creepy. Ghost. Subliminal message maybe from beyond. Yeah, no kidding. That's creepy stuff right there. That's pretty cool, though. Right there, yeah. That's hilarious. There was a note there that kind of got buried. This bug, I'm telling you what. That D note right there, I'm not convinced that we need to do anything to it, but because of the tom fill right there, I feel like that that D note right there is getting kind of buried. Yeah, it's a little better. Did start to get a little quiet there. We might want to do something about that. Let me go back to that section there just so that I don't forget about it. It gets a little quiet right here, but I do know that the guitars start taking up a little bit more bass frequency in the same section. Like right there. So we get to the end of that. Let's open up the guitars right there too and just kind of see if it feels like the bass starts to go away when the guitars are also in there. It doesn't feel too off when the guitars are in there too, but let's go ahead and bring it up just a hair. Like this bit clear up to like here. And we don't need to go crazy with it. We just want it to sound a little bit more consistent. Okay, yeah, and we listened through most of this instrumental. Okay, those three low notes right there were also a little bit quiet. There we go. Okay, all good there. We got to make sure this part comes out. It might be okay volume-wise where it is already. At least with the drums, it seems balanced, but we definitely want to make sure that doesn't get lost in there. Seeker says, nice part. Yes, 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 yes. I love that climb right there. It really gives the end of the song right there a better finality, if you will. Feels like we're building the final build. The bass guitar for this album is sponsored by Tylenol, Aleve, and Diet Mountain Dew. Yes. That is for sure. Yeah, honestly, I mean, Pepsi should be sponsoring this band because all of the albums are fueled by Mountain Dew to some degree. Will the album be under Rox Records like the first one? Pretty sure. We're pretty sure. We have not actually talked to Bill about it yet, but I would be surprised. I'd be surprised if he didn't. So, we'll definitely see, but I bet so. I think he will be relieved that this isn't another double disc concept album. I can't imagine it was cheap for him to produce that the physical copy with the 2 CDs and a 20-page booklet in it. So I'm sure he will be happy for a quote-unquote more normal one this time. All right, so muting the bass and opening up the rhythm guitars instead now. So we're listening to drums and rhythm guitars. We are now focused on any time that James and I are not playing the same thing. Now, that'll be a little bit less on this song than on other ones because, as I mentioned a couple of times, this song is Sam-focused. Sam wrote this one. This song exists on SoundCloud maybe as a keyboard-only thing. That's all Sam. And so we basically were adding to it. So the guitars are not the main focus of this song, unlike kind of our normal thing. So most of the time, I think James and I are playing the same or close to the same thing. There will be a couple of places we got to pull out, but mostly this should just be big wall of guitars, a lot of big open chords that are just supporting what the piano and the orchestra are doing. Yep, I think I'm good with all that. I do want to make sure that that little run comes out. Again, we need to check the full quality mix to see if it's sitting okay as it is. This, right. Seeger says, now that your friend passed away, will there be another male vocalist or just Majennica? I took it over, basically. So it's still male and female vocals. It's just me now. That was something that, again, since we don't play live, I wouldn't want to lead sing live. I prefer to focus on guitar. But since we've established that we almost definitely won't be playing shows unless an undeniable thing came along that we just had to do, we thought, better than replacing Jerry. We've got the ability to just do it. Let's just do it. So I took it over. We now have 2 female vocalists. Right. It's the hair, isn't it? That's why I grew the beard out more. Okay, let's keep on going in here. Before I forget, I want to see what happens if we put on our Soothe plugin for the hi-hat right there. The hi-hat is just the tiniest bit aggressive right there, and I don't want to lose it because I really love what Eli's doing right there on the hi-hat. But I'm curious if we can get it just a little bit more relaxed into the mix. And again, this is just because our hi-hat cymbals are so heavy. We really may want to consider next time we record swapping the hi-hat and the X-hat cymbals so that we're using those lighter Sabian cymbals. I like the sounds of these Zildjians. They're just so loud. So what we have here is this plugin here called Soothe, which is to help tame annoying frequencies across the spectrum. And we've got this thing called Hi-Hat Remover here, which we used in the last song to help kind of relax the sound of the hi-hat into the background. But it also takes a little bit too much of the other cymbals. So we want to make sure that if we use it, we only turn it on when we need it. So let's take a look here. We can... where'd it go? I forget where this is. It's probably an output. Yes, the bypass. Seeker says, oh, okay, good. Yeah, playing the guitar and singing live is very difficult. It's unfair your band is not well known when there are so many Americans similar between them boring bands. Agreed. Yeah. Yep. Very much agreed. That's how it goes, too. You know, we're kind of in a niche of a niche, if you will. Got a set of Zildjian L80s you can borrow. Thank you, Seeker. Spread the band of music around. Yes. Yeah. Any support we get is always super appreciated because we know, you know, we've put ourselves into this, the prog niche, to an extent, the Christian niche, and then also not playing live. You know what I mean? There's only so much we can do. But so it's amazing to us when we find people that really enjoy the music. So again, I know I said it a bunch of times, but seriously, thank you very, very much. We appreciate all of that support so much. Okay, I gotta find which part I'm thinking here. Not that big. Right there. So it's kind of like right where that fill is where it needs to stop. 73 is where it needs to start. And 87 is pretty much where it needs to end. And there are some cymbal crashes in there too that we're going to need to grab a hold of to make sure that we're not like muting those cymbal crashes. But for the most part, we want to turn it on from 73 to 87. And this is confusing. I did this wrong in the last episode too. This where it says on and off here is technically backwards, because what we're seeing is the bypass. The bypass is on, the bypass is off. Not the plug-in is on, the plug-in is off. Yeah, that might pull it a little too far into the background, so we'll have to play with the mix knob on that too. Okay, and also he doesn't hit hi-hat right away. That very first thing is a cymbal hit, so we shouldn't activate it until this. Oh, no. That was terrible. Let's also grab volume automation for the mix knob, which tells us how much of the signal is being affected and how much isn't, so that we aren't at 100%, because this does feel like a little bit too much. It's taking a little bit too much of that super cool hi-hat part away. So while it's on, let's drop it to like 70% mix. So we're still getting about 30% of the original unaffected signal in there. found that band through Metallum and listened to this album last summer on YouTube, and I was like, why so unknown? If the lyrical themes were anti-Christian or cheesy, maybe Napalm Records would get you. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yes. Yeah, no, we definitely appreciate that. We're hoping, and this is a big secret that nobody outside of the band has been made aware of yet, but we're hoping to do a music video for this album, for one of the songs, so that people can see us doing it, which would be super cool. Not sure which one yet, but we've got a guy, and the guy's really good at doing music videos, so we're hoping to make that happen. That is the first time that has been publicly stated, so that's pretty cool. I hope the rest of the band isn't mad that I said that, but I think it'll be super awesome. There's a spot where we're in harmony. We could have a marketing chat one day when the album is close to being done. We all know I love marketing. Yeah, that's for sure. And I wouldn't ever say that I'm super good at marketing because I kind of hate social media. Okay, so normally we turn James up a decibel and me down a decibel for harmonies. Let's try that. But I know that this particular thing is not coming through the mix very well in full quality. So we may actually need to turn James up 2 decibels and leave my volume alone. There we go. I was good with that balance, but let's go ahead and do the thing I said. So let's actually adjust this up an additional decibel to help it cut through the mix right there, which will end up putting my volume back just where it was to begin with. Love that part. All right, we just hit that E and it holds. So let's jump forward here. Yep, all good there. And then we should have one final stretch here. Now that ending right there, it almost sounded like we weren't playing the same thing. Let's check that out a little closer. Let's mute mine and hear what James is doing right there. Okay, maybe we are playing the same thing. Yeah. Whoops. Yeah. Seeker says, I'll try suggesting it in Friends. Welcome. Yes. Huge thank you for that, man. That'd be awesome. Okay, so that's our rhythm guitars. Again, really pretty much just that one section in harmony, and I knew it was going to be a lot less than normal because, again, the guitars, rhythm guitars as a whole in this one are more of a support instrument than, you know, their usual spot in Afterwinter music as, like, the riff, you know what I mean, the big important thing that's going on. Usually is the basis of that is in the rhythm guitars, but not really in this one. Okay, and for that same reason, normally what we do here is we open up the bass and we listen to the bass layer, if you will, the B-A-S-E, bass layer of guitar, bass guitar and drums. But again, because everything is here, I don't even know that this could be considered the bass layer for this one. The bass layer is almost more bass guitar, drums, and piano and orchestra, and then the rhythm guitars are kind of like a extra sprinkle of fanciness, if you will. So interesting there. But let's just go ahead and kind of open up back into full quality, and we'll take a listen to the sections where the bass and the guitar are and make sure that we're hearing all of those things the way we want to when the piano and the orchestra and everything is going as well. Making sure that the bass guitar is jumping through in those spots, especially the ending, and making sure that the guitar is jumping through in that one spot where we're in harmony that I mentioned, and also especially that is like kind of the real heavy section. We want to make sure the guitars are out there. Good with all that so far. Except, you know what? We didn't open everything else up. I got distracted. That totally was just drums, bass, and rhythm guitars. Come on, brain. There we go. Now everything's opened up. I think I heard that little guitar run as well as I wanted to. Let's listen to that one more time just to be sure. Yeah, I'm good with that. Okay, and then jumping forward a little bit. there was one of those sections. That was the section where James and I were in harmony right there. And it is, again, it's fairly buried. I think Dad's playing that on the bass, too. So I'm hearing the bass play it pretty well, but the guitars are definitely a bit buried there. So let's grab that. I want to grab a little bit more than what we affected earlier. Now, I don't want to, like... This is definitely going to be another line that we need to toe here. I don't want the guitars to, like, suddenly leap out of the speakers at you. So we got to be careful not to turn them up too loud. So we grab all that. Grab those, grab that, and that. Nice keyboards. The cover for Paramnesia was very inspired. Well done for whoever drew it. Yeah, that's another interesting kind of thing for this one. Now, we haven't taken the cover photo yet, but we have a pretty good idea of what it's going to be. The cover for Paramnesia was done by Rafael Tavares Grip, and I hope I haven't said his name wrong there. We did find out later on that it's AI, which we did not know at the time. He still did a fantastic job with it. You know what I mean? It was exactly what I had in my mind, at least. Do kind of wish it wasn't AI, but what do you do? The cover for this album will not be AI. The computer is doing all sorts of weird things with this. All right, we're gonna have to do some weird stuff because I'm zooming in. And it's zooming in like it's kind of going nuts when it zooms. Okay, we're gonna grab these things one by one. All of this. Let's take it up an additional 1 decibel. Yeah, I grabbed the wrong spot, first off. Seeker says, yeah, I'm not a fan of AI either, but I don't reject it totally. Yeah, it's I think it's really cool that stuff exists, but I definitely am worried about it, you know, starting to take the place of actual creativity and stuff. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where, like, it's so neat that you can just, like, input some prompts and it gives you this, like, professional looking thing back. Mind-boggling that we've come so far as to be able to develop technology like that. Now let's hope it doesn't Terminator us. Yeah, okay, that's better. What violin is playing that same thing? Probably solo violin 2. Yeah, I'm going to say, now we'll get to solo violin 2 on its own, but I'm going to say preliminarily that should come down just a little bit. Yeah, the violin's a little bit better in balance. I think I still want to hear a little bit more of the guitars, but it's really close. So let's go up another decibel. to turn up. Yeah, Seeker says transhumanism, AI, and ChatGPT would be good lyrical themes for a future album from a spiritual perspective. Totally agreed, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. We've been debating, now that album 2 is getting near, we're not going to jump right into album 3 like we did with this one, but we've been kind of debating whether or not it will be some sort of concept like Paramnesia was, or if it'll just be another kind of like regular or maybe themed album. But I could see some sort of concept about that sort of thing being neat if it was done right and it wasn't too, like Terminator ripoff kind of way. You know what I mean? We wouldn't want it to just be your typical, oh, AI is taking over, what do we do kind of concept if we did something like that. But no, I totally agree with you. Getting there on that. Again, I think the two like higher strings parts that are going on right there are too loud. Those two bits. Okay, and that's almost the only thing that's on Solo Violin 3. What is it doing out here? Yeah, it's really close. I still think the guitars and honestly even the bass could come up a hair for that, but I think that is really, really close. Uh-oh. Did that create us some extra ones? Yeah, I think it did. So I'm going to create a couple of extra nodes in the bass guitar too so that we can turn the bass up in that section too. I don't want to go overboard here. Let's try one extra decibel. Nice. Okay, there's also something in the drums that's kind of hitting me wrong right in there. It's one of the... Oh, you know what it is? It's that Tom 1 I think I pointed out near the beginning. I think it's this right here, and it's the cymbal bleed. Opinion about Theocracy in their last album, if you're familiar with. I know who they are. I have not listened to a whole lot of their music, if I'm being totally honest. I think Dad did. I don't know if Dad's still watching. Maybe you can field that one. I know that Dad was a big fan of something they did fairly recently. I wonder if that was their last album. But I always hear good things about them. I need to check them out a little bit more, for sure. Yeah, so it's 100% it's this rack tom right here. I think we can actually fix this by pulling this in a little bit. I think we're just hearing a little bit too much extra stuff other than that tom hit. Yep. 100%. good. I like it. Let's continue on. It says, I like Theocracy. Very warm colors to their tone. Yeah. They've been at Immortal Fest a couple of times here recently, I think. Right? Seeker, if you don't know that Immortal Fest that popped up here recently, that's usually a bunch of big Christian metal bands, is like 15 minutes from where we're located here in Ohio. We haven't gone to it, but I'm pretty sure Theocracy has been at least one of those. They're starting to get some pretty big names there. I do think we need to bring that bass part up just a little bit. It's really close, but let's face it, it's kind of the focus of that section, if I'm being honest. That build, that slow build, everything that the strings are doing is still cool, but we've heard that stuff before. This bass part is new. I want to push it a little further. So trying to make sure I knew where it started. Like right when the guitars come in, he starts climbing. Let's go 1.5 decibels, see if that's where that's at. I kind of went back and forth with myself there whether 1 decibel or 1.5 decibels was enough. I think we split it. When it first starts, let's just push it 1 decibel and the lower notes are in there. And then as he starts getting to those higher notes, push it an extra 1/2. Okay, yeah, I think we can call our drums, bass, and guitars pretty done here. So now we need to turn our attention to the pianos and orchestra, which is going to be definitely a little bit tricky. Now, I do think a lot of this is falling pretty well into place just as is, but there are definitely some sections where we're going to want to be really careful about making sure that these are where they need to be, and if necessary, back them down. I think our dynamics are kind of starting to sit where they actually should too. If you guys remember at the end of the last episode, I talked about how in the volume automation phase we needed to be really careful about preserving the dynamics of this song, especially considering it's 95% instrumental. Those dynamics, that push and that pull, are super important. The audience has got to be able to feel those pulling down into the quieter sections as more of a relaxed thing, and then when we come back, it hits hard. And the limiter that we're mixing with kind of naturally destroys that. You know what I mean? And that's modern mixing technique. That's how you do it. But you got to make sure that if a section's supposed to be quiet, you pull the volumes of that stuff down until it's quiet. I think we're starting to kind of get that naturally with the work we're doing, but that is something that we're still going to want to give a special focus to sometime near the end of this. Just make sure, basically. Okay, something I want to try in the pianos. I actually want to give them a little bit more high end. I'm starting to feel like the pianos are a little bit dull, almost. Like they need a little bit of aggression. Let's try like 3700. Not literal aggression, but just a little bit more clarity. Let's give us a 2 decibel boost up here at 3700 and see if that gives us what I'm looking for. That should still be within our mid-range bandpass as well. Yeah, and in this section here in the beginning, the pianos need to be louder and the strings maybe need to be a little bit quieter. That's something we're going to need to get to. We might as well go ahead and do that now. That is where we are. So we got 3 pianos playing here. Low piano 2, high piano 1, and high piano 4 are all doing stuff. We've also got low strings 1, high strings 1, and solo violin 1 and 2 throughout this section. And I remember we were having issues hearing solo violin 1 in the mid-range bandpass listen through. So let's go ahead and boost that. Let's take our high strings down a little bit. Couple decibels. And even this solo violin could probably stand to go down a couple of decibels. I want to make sure that didn't introduce a redundancy. Yes, it did. Solo violin 2 becomes straight up annoying after a while. The one that starts the song, basically, and I think it fades in at a good volume, but once solo violin 1 comes in, this solo violin kind of needs to get out of the way. Okay, yeah, I think it got there, but I'd like it to get there a little faster. Yeah, again, pretty close. I'd like it to get there even faster yet, I think. Getting there. Okay, I want to try and give the pianos just a little bit more high-end even yet than we're giving them. Rather than this little boost at 3700, what happens if we put a high shelf right there? So we're boosting even more of the actual top end here. Yeah, I'm liking the balance we're getting in the intro, though. There is something that's occurring to me here, and that is that just kind of generally, when the actual song kicks in, it feels like it's the same volume or even maybe quieter than the entire intro, which is definitely not what we want. So again, this is the limiter. The limiter is doing that. Pushing the loud parts up to the ceiling, and then the loud parts stop getting louder, and the quieter parts keep getting louder until they're the same loudness as the loud parts. Hopefully that makes sense. So the only way to combat that is to grab a hold of everything that's happening in this section that's supposed to be quiet and turning it further down until it remains at the level that we're actually trying to achieve there. So this is going to be a whole bunch of nodes that we need to grab. We need to grab this, all of that right there. I'm going to try and stop saying that every time I click something. Yep, and here and here. This is the one that's going to be a little tricky. Okay, I think that's everything. Yep. So we're going to take everything that's in the intro and try turning it down about 3 decibels. Not that we don't want the intro to be nice and full, but we definitely want, when everything comes in there, with the guitars and the drums and everything come in, that should be a lot more of a kick. It was better. Still wasn't completely what I had in mind, but it was definitely better. Let's go ahead and turn down the piano as well. Grab all those nodes again. I was saving this in case we needed to do it more, but I ended up changing the balance of something else. All of that and that. Okay, that should do that so that we can bring this down even more. Let's just do another 3. The computer disagrees. It's going straight from 10.9 to 11.1. Let me have 11. Why can't I have 11? Oh, that's so frustrating. Is it trying to tell me that this isn't the right volume? Is that what? Okay, let's give that another check. Cody says that's the battle we all deal with. Give me the number I want. That's right. That is right. I do think I will give it 1 decibel of volume back. But other than that, that was good. And of course, now it won't go to 10. There. Okay. Perfect. One thing I do want to check, the strings kind of like hit a note right when we have that bass drum and the crash grab that we added in the last episode. I almost felt like that was a little too loud. Just a little. It's in the high strings track. It's this little thing right there. Doesn't need to come down a bunch. There we go. Okay, I'm going to take a quick pause right here. I'm going to get another pop. Give me just 1 second. There we go. See, look at that. I mean, come on, Pepsi. We don't even want your money. We just want your product. For free. I think it's possible that we could... soda, yeah. I think it's possible we could attribute some of Paramnesia's craziness to every writing session. James and I would go to the gas station and get one of those Mountain Dew Kickstarts. And I think Sam usually had Monster, unless I'm remembering wrong in those writing sessions. So yeah, a lot of the craziness might be caffeine high. I was pretty good with all that we just heard there. I think I might start treating the pianos and the orchestras as kind of one instrument rather than going through it track by track. As long as we know what's happening in any given section. Have a good day. Here it's after midnight. Thanks for your company. Oh, man. Yes, Seeker, you too, man. Thank you so much for checking this out and hanging out with us and interacting. It has been a huge amount of fun. Definitely hope to see you back in here. And thanks for staying up late. Would love to know where you're from, actually. That's, see, it's about 7:45 p.m. for me. So, yeah. Again, thank you so much for the interaction and hanging out. Hope you have a great day, too. Or a great night, I guess. Great day tomorrow. Okay, so let's check out this kind of following section here. Real fast, before we check out this following section, let's solo the pianos and the orchestra and just kind of see what all the pieces are so that we know what's coming out and what's not. That high melody could be a little louder, probably. I think that's high piano 3 doing that. Okay, yeah, so lots of interesting stuff there. The really high piano melody on piano 3 could come up a little bit more. Everything else felt fairly balanced as is, but of course we're going to want to check that within the context of the full quality mix. I'm sure you guys can kind of see why this song worked totally fine with just pianos and orchestra when Sam originally wrote it that way. This thing has so many interesting bits and pieces all throughout. Just what Sam's doing. Okay, so let's turn that high melody up just a little bit. So once we come back to that when everything's in, I think that high melody can go back down. Yeah, go back to where it was at 13.5. It's no longer a focus of what's going on. I don't want it gone, but it doesn't need to be quite so loud. Okay, I just saw an interesting thing here. Okay, no, those shouldn't be arguing. Okay, so Sam's got a couple of violins that are panned out left and right, and I thought I wasn't hearing the left one. I turned it up, and suddenly it was super, super loud right in the face. So I guess it was adding more than I thought it was. Okay, back to the beginning of that section again. Something I want to check. I'm pretty good with the volume of the pianos when everything cuts out and it cuts down to just piano. This is the section Majennica sings over later. But when everything came in on that one, it felt like another kind of like a big hit, and it shouldn't actually. This whole section's a little bit more relaxed. Right here. So it feels fairly appropriate when the rhythm guitars really drop in. And it's not necessarily a big hit, I guess, like I said, but it does kind of feel like everything's just suddenly going, bah, right there. It's right there. It's not really bad, but everything just kind of is suddenly there. I think it's the lead guitars that are kind of hitting me a little bit wrong. So maybe me and James's leads that are right there need to kind of like do a quick little fade in so that they don't hit so hard right when they first start, but then they come up to their current volume over the course of a couple measures or something. Yeah, these two leads, and they're the same both times, are the only thing that are on these tracks. So let's try that. Let's bring this down like 3 decibels and let it kind of climb up to its actual volume over the course of a couple measures. I love that fill right there too. I do think we may have turned those toms up just a hair too high. Just a hair, not much. Okay, it won't give me 11.5 or 12. There we go. Still very clear and articulate, but not jumping out the front quite so much. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I do think all of that's pretty well balanced. I hate to focus on too many different things at once, but I would like to hear... There's a neat little lead thing going on in harmony right there, and I would like to hear that a hair better. Right here. It's just those last 2 measures. The little arpeggio thing right there is kind of neat, I feel like. By the way, sorry if you heard any pops on my microphone there for a second. That gnat landed on the microphone twice, and I tried to swat it, and I didn't get him either time. Go up just a couple decibels here and see what we think. Let's try a hair more, but honestly, I think it's pretty close. I don't think I want to turn up the last note of it, though. I don't want it to pop out real hard or anything. I just want to hear it a little better. Okay, yeah, close. It's probably arguing with something, because I feel like we've turned it up an amount that I should be hearing it pretty good. I think I'm good with that. Okay, so let's keep on moving here. And again, for this section, this break right here, and maybe for verse 2 as well, I want to, again, solo the piano and the orchestra and kind of remind myself what's going on. That thing going on high piano too there might be a little quiet. This. Gosh, I just love that section so much. Which one of Sam's piano is he just going that whole time? I love that so much. Okay, so yeah, the things that kind of stuck out to me listening to the stuff by itself, is that the times where he's doing the kind of like alternating little thing here on high piano 2, that those were a little bit buried, but most of the rest of it felt kind of naturally in balance, considering the dynamics of the other stuff going on as well. So talking about this. Yeah, that bit right there, which happens, looks like these 4 times here, should probably be turned up. Now, obviously, we want to hear that in the context of everything, but I'm pretty confident that they will need turned up. So let's start there. There's some weird stuff going on there. Okay, we're really close. It doesn't need turned up as far as I thought, but let's still take it up a bit. I thought that hit 5.4 instead of 5.5. Okay. actually heard what sounded like a hard stop right here, and I don't like that. Don't want that. Let's put a node right here and let that slowly fade back down to... No, it deleted the wrong one. Logic, you and me are going to fight. Come on, I'm clicking directly on the node I want to get rid of. There. That was a little bit more of an argument than it should have been, I feel like. Okay, so yeah, over the course of this measure, we'll let it jump down back in volume to where it was. Success. I killed him. I had to celebrate by stopping the song and mentioning it. I found him crawling on my desk, and now he is dead. R.I.P. Nat. You did your best. Okay, anyway. One second here. That solo violin that's playing that main part right there, I turned it down just half a decibel. Very good. Okay, let's check out what's going on in the strings and keyboards here in this section. So that whole bit seems to be the same as the previous chorus, although there is an added violin in the beginning, which this was just piano by itself. Now there's a violin. There's also Majennica singing right there in the full everything. This seems fairly balanced as is, I think. Let's jump back to everything and see what we think. I think I could use just a hair more of that piano that's doing those neat arpeggios there. The song really needs an animated video that looks like a JRPG. Agreed. Yes. Yes, 100%. James and I were talking about something like that years ago when I think like Iron Maiden put out like an animated video for something. I don't remember what the song was, but it was really neat. And James was like, do we know anybody that could do something like this? And I was like, I don't know anybody. That would be a ton of work. It would be a lot of money, too. It would be worth whatever it costs, but it'd be a lot of money, I bet. But that would be so cool. And this, yeah, I think you're right. This would be the one to do it. Oh, Cody asked if that was Stratego. That's a good question. I really don't remember, but it could have been. It could have been that. It was something from their the most recent album. I'm blanking the name of the most recent album. It was something Jitsu. I'm pretty sure it was something from that album that had like a really neat animated music video. There was a violin part I turned down there. Yeah, it is Stratego. Okay, nice. Also, I just saw another gnat. I thought I killed him, but he has been resurrected. This warm weather is wreaking havoc on that stuff in here. Check and make sure I got all the stuff out of the trash cans tonight before I leave. Okay, now, I don't think that our fancy little lead thing that we did in the last course is necessary here, because I think Majenica's vocals kind of well cover everything so that that's not necessary again. You know what I mean? Let's listen for that specifically. For when the leads come in right here, does it feel like suddenly everything's in again like the last course did? Cody said he's got a lot of ants where he's at. He found an ant on the telly. Yeah. I'm glad it's not ants or spiders here, but yeah, the gnats definitely do get annoying. I feel like the vocals might actually be just a hair loud. Let's take them down half a decibel. They felt a little more appropriate volume once everything else started coming in, so we may need to turn the first half a little further down than the second half. We're just doing it all at once. After this listen through is done, we're just going to be done with the song, which wouldn't be a bad thing, let's be honest. still thinking the first half is a little louder than the second half, but I think we've got the rest of it there. Yeah, that's cool. We've kind of just gone through this song section by section rather than instrument by instrument. Oh. Get out of here. There we go. Let's try pulling these down. 3 decibels seems to be the magic number in this song. So the melody and the high harmony both down a little bit, and then I think the second half is fine as is. Logic, how do you know? How do you always know which one I'm going for and then prevent me from doing that? There we go. Pretty good with all that. I do think, again, on those leads, I would like to hear a little bit more of that same thing, the little arpeggio thing in harmony, just like we did in the last one. Yep. Either the one that I killed was not the one that's dive bombing me right now, or the other ones have taken up his cause. Almost there. There we go. Hey, you know what? I think I'm good with this one. I don't know about you guys. I'm not really hearing anything else that feels like off or out of balance or anything. I think we've nailed this one. I've got so many tracks that I've like opened and then forgot to shrink. There we go. Getting everything back where we put it. Okay. Nice. Well, awesome. I don't know if any of you that are in here right now were in here in that last stream, but we were talking about how it's a pretty appropriate day, right? Yesterday was the 9-year anniversary of Sam writing the core of this song. So who would have guessed, when he wrote it, that 9 years later, the official version of this song would be mixed We're not going to master it tonight. Again, I think I've talked about that a couple of times before, where it's pretty good to give yourself a day or two before you master a song. You don't necessarily want to jump right from the mix into the master. My ears are definitely a little bit tired. Mastering has a lot more extra stuff you got to do in it. I also try not to export on stream because it takes a while. So, for our first draft mix, the last thing we are going to do here is turn off the limiter. And now, when I'm off stream, and it won't be a big deal, and we won't have to sit for 5 minutes in silence because bouncing turns off my mic. I will bounce this song so that we can master it at the beginning of the next one. So let's spend the rest of tonight getting ready for the next song. Here we go. There we go. Yes, I am here. Okay, good. Welcome, everyone, to track 4 called Distance. This is going to be a good one. Definitely excited to see how this one kind of shapes up. This is the one that we've been kind of discussing as a first single. Not sure yet, because we can't really finalize that decision until they're all done and we can fairly judge them. But preliminarily, this one has felt kind of the neatest, at least to me. This is the one that stood out to me a lot. May not stay that way, but this is definitely a good one. So first things first, let's save as, so that anything we do, we can call back this original tracking mix if we need to. There we go. Always got to save as. Okay. I'm just kind of taking a look at what all is going on in this one at the moment. We know we can delete the click track now that we're in the mix project. Don't need the click. There's a lot of things in here that we technically don't need, but if we want to give this thing a listen before we get started, then we should leave everything else that's here at the moment. So we want to grab the drums master, the bass, the rhythm guitars master. Yeah, there's a clean guitars master. All of the pianos are kind of their own thing. Looks like everything else in the song is its own thing. Ooh, I just thought of something that I may have forgotten to do. We'll see. Okay, sending everything to the stream. Did I line up the gang vocals? Okay, it looks as though I did. Okay, one of the last things that we tracked on the big day that most of the band, everybody but Majennica, came up and we kind of tracked all the last remaining bits. One of the things we did were the gang vocals in this song. So I need to make sure that I had actually lined them up in the song and they weren't all just kind of like in there willy-nilly. Looks like they're not mixed. They're all at unity. So we may need to adjust that. Well, of course, we're going to do a context mix where everything gets set to 0 anyway, but even just for our listen through here, that might be super loud. Okay, well, let's give this one a listen. This is the tracking mix, so again, it's going to be a lot quieter. It's going to be a lot quieter than our actual mix of Forgotten Wanderer was just a second ago. But it should still come through pretty well. This is our first song for the album that's in drop C rather than standard. So pretty typically, AfterWinter writes with 7-string standard guitars or 6-string drop C guitars. So this one is in drop C. We've got dual vocals again. So me on the verses, Majennica on the chorus. The This one's pretty heavy. This one's definitely got some prog stuff in it. We tried to go kind of the Unforgiven route as far as dynamic went. Heavy verses, pulled back chorus, which is kind of a neat thing. So let's take a listen here and see what we hear. Yeah, that's that one. 5.5. Again, just a hair shorter than kind of our average. Not really a guitar solo in that one, unless you want to count those two kind of like pre-chorusy breaks. But again, just neat. I've always liked that one. The vibe of that one is neat. The chorus has a lot of interesting chord changes, and the harmonies are cool. Love the lyrics again. The duality of having me kind of playing this character that has left everybody behind and feeling like everybody hates him and wants to just be left alone. And then Majenica's character, being maybe a significant other to this person or even the voice of God, if you will, kind of saying, no, don't worry about it. Everything's fine. Come back home, basically all this stuff. So just a good message in this one. Neat song, heavy. I like that thing at the end that's... everybody's kind of playing a little bit of a different thing. We're definitely polyrhythming there. So Eli's kind of playing it as if it's 4/4. James and I and Dad are all playing more like 5/4 pattern. Sam is playing more like a pattern of 3s with occasional 2s in there. And then we all meet back up in 5/4 at the end, which is neat. This little section right here. Yeah, I really like this one. It's also, it never ceases to amaze me just how, like, kind of weak the tracking mix feels when we jump to a new song after we've been working on one that's basically finished for a long time. We come back to this, which I'm used to thinking as being one of the stronger songs on the entire thing, and now it just kind of feels like sort of weak and flat, you know what I mean? So really looking forward to hearing this one more mixed. So let's kind of start getting this one prepared for actual mixing. So we'll do a little bit of the routing here at the end of the stream, and then I'll do the rest of the routing off stream so that we can actually get started on the song in the next episode. So kind of the first step here is to get rid of some of the stuff that we've put in place for the tracking mix. You know what I mean? These like the drum master bus here. There's a rhythm guitar bus and a clean guitar bus that can all go. Those are going to get replaced by the stuff that we've used in the previous songs. So we need to get rid of all the busing, which we did. We need to set all of the outputs to stereo output. And that will allow us to delete this drum master, this rhythm guitar master, there's clean guitar master. Let's leave this organ reverb. I like that as is. And this vocal reverb, we can get rid of all of that. Did they go? For a second there, I wasn't sure they actually deleted. Okay, yeah, they are gone. Okay, so now all we've got is our actual song tracks and that organ reverb that I left. Good. So now we're going to import a bunch of stuff from Boundless. We could import stuff from Poison in the Well. And for the moment, I'm just going to import everything. Let me take a look at this a little closer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're going to need the clean guitars from Poison in the Well. Yeah. We'll see what we get. All of that and that. And all we're bringing in is the volume values and the plugins. Everything else we're leaving. So we're not bringing in any content from the other song. Just kind of like the infrastructure, if you will. Yeah. All the good stuff. All right, let's set up our end chain to begin with. Here we go. So we've got a bus called Pre-Master here. And this is going to be input 32, or sorry, bus 31. Excuse me. And this has got our limiter and our mid-range bandpass on it. This is going to be what sends the song to you guys. So we're going to start with that at 0, but eventually we're going to turn that down a little bit once we get the limiter on. Our router here, which is where kind of everything in the song meets up again, is going to be input 1, and that's going to output to that pre-master that sends to you guys. Our vocals master is where every vocal in the song meets up at the end, is going to be bus 2, and our drums and instruments master is where everything that's not a vocal comes. Oops, that's going to be bus 3, except I clicked 4 for some reason. There we go. Those two things, the drums and instruments master and the vocals master, are both going to output to the router. Now you can see we've got some plugins on there, some compression, and the vocals have a little bit of soothe. And then our kind of end chain on the router, we have some saturation and EQ, some compression, the virtual tape machines, which again is saturation, and the soothe, getting rid of some kind of nasty things, are all on that kind of end chain there. So everything's coming out to here at the end. That's our end chain. Let's get our drums set up here. So we're going to grab the bass drum. We're going to go all the way down to drums master there. And we're going to pull those up here to the current song's drum stuff. Right there. We do have a couple of extra cymbals in this one. Looks like we ended up with 12 extra tracks instead of, well, not 12 extra tracks, 8 extra tracks for a total of 12, rather than 4 extra tracks for a total of 8. Interesting. Okay, our bass drum stuff and our snare stuff can come up here. Oh, that's right, we've got rim clicks in this song. We haven't had those anywhere else yet. So we're replacing the plugins and volume values of the current stuff. So here is the bass drum, the snare, and the snare fills that are all in this song currently. We're going to get rid of every plugin that's currently on those. We're going to leave the rim clicks alone for now until we get to sound detail, when we can make that sound better. We'll probably just put the snare effects on it, but that doesn't always work. Okay, and then our bass drum, we're going to put our virtual mix rack, our channel EQ, and our multipressor. We're also going to change the volume value of the bass drum to 16.5. On our snare, we're going to put our virtual mix rack and our channel EQ. And we're going to change the volume value to 4. Our snare fills get a slightly different virtual mix rack with a gate on it and a channel EQ. Come on, computer, get with it. I'm trying to move it, not open it. Here we go. And we'll change that volume value to 3. Now the rim clicks we're just going to leave alone for the moment, because we won't know until we get to sound detail how we want those to sound. So now no groove snare track in this one, so we can delete the stuff we input from Boundless and leave our snare reverb and our kick and snare master. Our rim click we want to go ahead and take down to 0. Our snare reverb is going to come down to 0, and our kick and snare master is going to go back up to unity. Okay, let's go ahead and set up. Our snare reverb is going to be bus 4. Our snare fills, snare, and rim click are all going to send to that. 0. And then our kick and snare master is going to be bus 5. And everything here, the bass drum, the snare drum tracks, the rim click, the snare reverb, are all going to output to that submaster. Just like that. Okay, we'll take a look at what's happening with our toms here. Okay, again, we don't have floor tom 2 in this song, but we've got lots of floor tom 1. So it looks like we've got the right floor, or the right tom tracks in from Boundless here. That's right, I did actually adjust the panning values from our tracking mix. So we want this to be -10, we want this to be +10, and we want this to be +20. All of the tom volumes can just go down to nothing. We're going to get rid of the stuff that's currently on them. Compression, EQ, reverb. Routing was already kind of slow and boring before my computer was unbearably slow. So we are moving a drum leveler, the virtual mix rack, and channel EQ from each of our previous drum tracks to the new ones. There we go. And now again we can delete the tom tracks we brought in from Boundless. We're going to leave our reverb and our master though. We do want to zero out the reverb and put the master back up at 0. We're going to set the reverb to bus 6 and the master to bus 7. We want to select our tom tracks and send them to the reverb at 0, and then output the toms and their reverb to the toms master. There we go, just like that. Okay, and then for our overheads, we've got a couple of adjustments we need to make. So first off, I did actually change the pan value for all of these as well. They need to be at -55 and +55 rather than hard left and hard right. We also want to get rid of the channel EQ that is on the top of all of them, and we're also going to zero them all out. And then we've got some special EQ. This is our hi-hat EQ right here. And that's going to go in, 3 places. Our ride cymbal mic EQ is going to go here, here, and here. And then we've got an identical channel EQ that goes on our left and right spaced pair overheads. Might as well stick those in all the rest of the places. Great. And then again, we can get rid of the tracks we brought in from Boundless. We're going to leave our overhead master, of course, set that back up to 0. We're going to turn off that Soothe plugin for now. We're going to set that to bus 8 and output all of our overhead channels to that bus. Very good. Next, we've got our drum crush, which is going to be bus 9. And, yeah, we've got a backward cymbal track here that we don't need. There is no backward cymbal in this song. And then we've also got our drums master, which can be bus 10. Excellent. Okay, so then we're going to set our drums crush to -16.5, but we're going to mute it. Set our drums master to 0. I've gotten written down here the values for how we send it to that drums crush. So we're going to grab the bass, snare, rim click, and snare verb, the toms and their reverb, and each of the overhead channels. We're going to set up a send to bus 9. The snare channels go in at 0. The snare reverb goes in at -5. The bass drum goes in at negative 20.5. The toms go in at negative 24. Oh, sorry, that was the reverb. The tom should go in at negative 21.1. The reverb goes in at negative 24. The overheads go in at negative 25.7. And then, yeah, the drums crushes at 16.5. Got it. Okay, so that's all good. Next, we need to grab the kick and snare master, toms master, overhead master, and drum crush. Output them to the drums master, just like that, and output the drums master to the end chain. Ooh, routing is boring. Guys, that's just the simple truth of it. Routing is just boring. Luckily, the drums are the most complicated part. Okay, what else we got? Radio effect, we don't need that. That was a Boundless thing. Next, we've got our bass guitar stuff. Stick that up here next to the current bass guitar. Okay, our current bass guitar, we're going to zero that thing out, pull it straight down, and we're going to get rid of the compression EQ and multi-pression that's on that. There we go. And then we can bring over our chain from Boundless, which is a compressor, virtual mix rack, channel EQ, and a multipressor. We can delete the Boundless bass track, and we're going to keep the bass guitar master. We need to put that at 0. We're going to set that to be bus 11. Output the bass to bus 11, and then output the master to the end chain. There we go. Perfect. Now, a lot of this information may change, too, since this song's in a different tuning. This is in drop C. All of us are playing different instruments than we played in the other two songs, so a lot of this infrastructure may need to change. These two tracks we can delete. Then we have all of our rhythm guitar stuff. That goes here. Okay, so we've got an interesting new thing in this one. The James Rhythm left light, and then James Rhythm right light, which comes in the chorus. It's what he's doing in the chorus with a lot less gain on the distortion, which is new. We're probably just going to have to set that up from scratch. Yeah, I'd say so. Okay, so as far as the guitar tracks in the song, we first, of course, are going to zero everything out. Now, the light rhythms, or maybe his main rhythms, have a track envelope on them. We're going to want to get rid of that at first. I think it might be his main rhythms, actually, that have the volume envelope on them. They kind of fade back in at the end of the chorus. Okay, and we're going to swap out the effects there for the Boundless effects, channel EQ and multi-pression. Right, we'll just leave those light rhythms alone for now. Okay, we'll delete all of our Boundless stuff. And then now we've got a Rhythm Guitars Master, which is going to be number 12. We need to return that up to 0. Let's go ahead and get rid of the volume envelopes that I know are on there. Yeah, we're just going to turn them off, so we still have the information. So I like what they're doing. We're just going to need to adjust their volumes to the mix once we get that far. Excuse me. Okay, then we need to output all of our rhythm guitars to the Rhythm Guitars Master, and then output the Rhythm Guitars Master to the end chain. There we go. Now we've got a bunch of clean guitars, which was not in Boundless. So these we want to pull from Poison in the Well. Go ahead and grab those real fast. Yeah, and we'll just pull the Clean Guitars master in and leave everything else alone for the time. We're probably going to have to reset that anyway, being that it's a totally different guitar. Okay, we're going to set that up to 0. Set the input to bus 13. Then we need to output all of our clean guitars to the clean guitar master, and then output the clean guitar master to the end chain. Very nice. Okay, next we've got pianos. Right, so we've got all that stuff from Boundless. We'll pull up here. Okay, so we've got a separate reverb for the organ than the piano, so we'll have to remember that. Shouldn't be too bad. What do we got? Low piano 1 and 2, and then high piano 1 and 2. And then we've got an organ. Okay. So let's take all of our piano tracks. And I think we only need to replace the EQ. I don't think we did anything else to these. Yeah, everything else should remain the same. So for the low piano, we've got kind of a special thing here. For the high piano, we've done kind of the same thing, but with a high pass on it. We'll leave that organ alone. We need to zero these out. Oh, we didn't get the organ. Oh, I didn't zero the clean guitars out. I see. I was kind of feeling like I was forgetting something. There we go. Now we can delete our Boundless stuff. Okay, let's zero out our organ reverb and our piano reverb, and then we need to put the piano master back up at 0. Our organ reverb is going to be reassigned to bus 14. And then the piano reverb can be 15. And then our piano's master can be 16. Our pianos need to bus out to the piano reverb. The organ needs to send to the organ reverb. And then all of the above outputs to piano's master. Piano's master outputs to the end chain. Okay. I can't believe I still have one viewer. Is this somebody sleeping and just kind of like using this as oh, what's that word? I've lost ASMR. Is that the right thing? Does this count as ASMR? Okay, let's call it there. I think good enough. I'll get the rest of that done off stream so that we can actually jump right into the song at the beginning of the next one. Or I guess we'll be mastering. Yeah, at the beginning of the next one, we'll master Forgotten Wanderer so that we've got a for sure first draft of that one. And then we will come over here and get started on our context mix for Distance. So definitely exciting. That's another song's first draft in the bag. Good and done. And one I expected to be a little bit more complicated than it was. I feel like that one, we got really lucky with it kind of falling into place really nicely. Hopefully we will continue to get lucky for the rest of the album, and everything will be, plain smooth sailing. That would be super neat. That is for sure. Okay, making sure I don't have anything that I've forgotten. I think we're all good to go with all that stuff. Okay, guys, so again, we should be able to do this tomorrow afternoon, probably around 12:30 or 1. We should be able to get some work done. So looking forward to diving back into this already. It's coming out so good. I'm so happy with the way things have been sounding so far. Thank you so much, regardless of whether you're watching right now, if you were watching earlier, if you're watching this in the future when it's not live. Everybody who's watched these other episodes knows this, but it's worth saying as many times as it takes. I and everybody in the band appreciates every second of time that you spend hanging out here in these live chats, checking this stuff out. We hope that you love what you see and what you're hearing. We hope that you've maybe found this a little bit educational, or at least found it really interesting to watch this shaping up into what it has actually become. Either way, everybody in the band really, really appreciates anybody watching this. It blows our minds that people love this music, or even that people like this music pretty well. We love it. That's why we do it. So it's always an amazing top-tier bonus when other people enjoy it as well. So thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts, genuinely. Seeker, I know you're not in here anymore, but if you happen to watch this back later, again, thank you so much for checking this out. It was really cool to interact in the chat with you and with everybody that was in here. Cody, of course. I'm not sure if Cody's still in here, but Cody's been a mainstay that interacts pretty commonly throughout all of these episodes. I really, really appreciate that, man. Really good to hang out. And, of course, everybody else that's watching, too. Again, I don't want to leave anybody out or thank anybody else more than another. But, yes, again, we couldn't possibly appreciate anybody that's checking this stuff out more. So thank you. Hopefully, we'll catch everybody tomorrow for some more work on this song. This one, again, I think it's been one of my favorites so far. So we'll see how it comes out once we've got the whole thing. Is this one still up in the top running for a single? I don't know. Maybe. We'll check it out.